Alright, it's time to get off my butt and do something that's been a thorn in my side for a long while. Review and then rank the first 20 seasons of the American version of Survivor. And this is going to take multiple parts, and I'm probably going to have to look at various notes that I've got. Okay, so first of all, talking about Borneo. Well, given how that wasn't the first season that I watched, and the first season that I watched was All Stars, obviously I knew the winner and a decent amount about the season. You just heard about that from a group of people. But when I watched it, I was surprised by how much I actually did enjoy it, because it was like, so this is how it all started. And if you look at it, in many ways, it does a better job than some of the seasons that are airing like right now, because everyone got appropriate amounts of camera time. When the season ended, you could recall who everyone was pretty easily. You had the last rites, which gave homage to the cast at the end, and it came down to one vote, and it's real fitting how the first season was decided by just one vote. You took everything as far as you could, and the winner does have a story to tell, especially since, if I recall correctly, Hatch had the first confessional where he says, "Yeah, I'm the winner." That would be so funny if I could watch that again and determine if it's true. I've got the DVD upstairs, along with a few other seasons. I really need to get more. That's not to say that it doesn't have problems, such as Jeff's crappy narrations and him getting a few things wrong, because he says at one point that Tagi had lost 2 reward challenges in a row, when actually they had just lost the last 2 challenges. There was an instance on the season where Tagi lost 2 reward challenges in a row, but it was after he made that remark. It's just like, how can you screw that up? And then there's also the fact that in this season he doesn't do the best job of reading the votes, like updating everyone on, who has how many votes. And I think that there's 1 or 2 instances where he doesn't pull out all the needed votes to explain everything. Granted, it's the first season, but but it's a nice season, and I enjoy it. Now, moving on to Australian Outback. Well, when I first saw this season, I loved it, and for a long time considered it, to be part of what I like to call reality TV gold, where, like, it had a very good location, very positive atmosphere, overall positive cast, tons of people that you can root for, and even the somewhat less likable people did provide dynamics for the season. Granted, when we watched it, we're probably looking at Jerry and Colby's interactions, along with a few remarks that Kimmy, Jeff, Keith made, going, what the hell are these people doing? Though, of course, now that the CBS reality TV has been so indoctrinated to us, we're like, that's nothing. It's just kind of amusing to see that now in the comparison, and I actually wouldn't be too surprised if I was to rewatch it, and I'd say that Colby was more out of line than Jerry was, though everyone does seem to agree that Jerry was a very different person between the first time that she played and the third time that she played. I was disappointed in the ending, because I was rooting for Colby to win, but I look back and I go, why was I rooting for Colby to win? Because if I watched this season blind, but with the attitude to this game that I have now, there's no way I would have rooted for Colby to win, or at least I don't think so. It's just like, why did I do that? It's ridiculous, and really, this is the jury decision that I used to be most annoyed about. This is nothing compared to multiple other jury decisions. Come on. Yeah. Like, why did I complain about that? But over the years, this season has definitely gone down in my favorability, given what its alumni have done. And it's not just Colby, alright, because it's what Scoopin did, both when he reappeared and then what he did outside of the show. Then there's Varner creating more trouble. Amber is just listed as a Boston Raw Acolyte, though I'm recording this before I watch season 40 because given how many older people are being brought back for that, I think it's more appropriate to record it now and then see if my thoughts change after I've watched that season. Because, trust me, okay, alumni performance in future seasons can affect a season's favorability in my mind. I've had it go both ways. Alright? So, most people loved it back in the day, but there's definitely a greater number of people that go, it's not that as good as I remember. Especially since people don't play the game the way these people played it anymore. Moving on to Africa. It was a bit of a slog for me to get through this season when I was first watching it, but over time I've come to realize that it really only has to do with the location and the edit of the show, because it's not the contestants' fault that they were in a location that was so bland and so harsh that made it much more difficult for them to get by. It's not their fault. There was gameplay to be had in these people. It was just a combination of outside factors just made it a lot less interesting than it really should have been. And production learned their lesson for the most part, trying to avoid completely landlocked locations, though other times that they did this it worked better. And then, of course, you've got the Final Four trivia question where they got it wrong, and no one knew that they got it wrong until they were literally airing the live show, because according to a Reddit Ask Me Anything that Lex did, everyone was sitting in the, I guess it's called the green room or back room, watching it, and then Lex answers, I think he said Lindsay, that she didn't have any piercings, and Lindsay actually turns to him and goes, "Yeah, you're right." And then seconds later, Jeff says, "Lex, you're wrong," and everyone's like, but we just got it for the source. I mean, again, you can't blame the contestants, you have to blame production for that. And Lex, being my winner pick at the time, did play a role in the dampering of this season. Okay, I gotta do something about this sun, Can I avoid the sun here? Okay, that's better. But, yeah, if there's problems with the season, I really don't think you can blame the contestants. I think you have to blame production, for that matter. Because while Ethan was kind of random, I'm sure that if I was to rewatch this season, I'd appreciate his game a little bit more if I could reset my mind to old school playing of this show. Then moving on to Marquesas. Now, I am fully aware, okay, that this season has gained a better favorability in the eyes of tons of other people, because a lot of the things that we would complain about, negative cast, and this season being way less predictable, because in this season, this was the first time that the people that were in charge of the season lost control of the game due to outsiders, even though it has since been surfaced that the two factions in that 5-person alliance did not like each other, especially Pascal and Sean, but all that stuff has become normal. So, while that did affect my viewing of the season, if I was to rewatch it, I'd have to, give that more or less a free pass, because I only complained about it because that was the first time it happened. And, if you were to watch Big Brother, you would see that those kinds of things happen all the bleeding time on that show. You gotta just deal with the negativity. That's not to say that other things in there weren't bad, because the Purple Rock, they used it incorrectly in this situation, because what they didn't realize was that the Purple Rock works with all combinations of people in this game where there could be a tie, except when there's only 4 people left in the game, period. Because person with immunity doesn't have to reach in, and then people that are involved in the tie become safe. Granted, they didn't do that here, but either it's because they forgot that that was part of the rule, or the rule genuinely was at the time, it's only the person that doesn't have immunity that can reach in there, but it's your own bleeding tie process. You should have been able to figure that out, you know? So I do fault them for that, even though there is a part of me that thinks I'm overdoing it. And then there's Boston Rob. Now, I had seen All-Stars and HVV before I saw this season, and let me tell you, Boston Rob in here, he sucks! Alright, I could not stand this guy. I'm like, you are just behaving so dumb. And there was a time where he's speaking to John, and he's going, do I have stupid written on my head? Yeah, you really did, buddy, because when you were voted out, I didn't go, oh man, like when he was voted out in HVV, I went, finally! I literally did that. Come on. And then the final 2 not being so great, that was kind of depressing, but again, this is the first time it happened, so that's why it stands out in many people's minds. And you can't skip this season because you do need it to get the introduction of Boston Rob, and then Kathy appears in all stars, so you can't skip this season. You do have to watch it. Oh yeah, then there's introduction of Purple Rock, even though they used it incorrectly, because if you don't miss this, then Jeff's offhand remark in Palau, we don't draw rocks. I mean, it's like, what's he talking about? And then the location was kind of bad, but of course it was a backup location because this season started filming not too long after the 9/11 attacks. Because originally they were going to film in Jordan, which is right next to Saudi Arabia, if memory serves. So that takes care of more cases. Moving on to Thailand. There's definitely a group of people that say that this season has improved in their mind, but in my opinion, I still really dislike this season. Now, I will freely admit, this season does have actually a pro or two that I can give it, contrary to what I said in my Caramon finale vlog, because it has the old school bit of Survivor to it, and you see people struggling with their shelters, and the challenges, a good amount of them were creative, but that's really all I can say about it, to be honest. This, in my mind, is a really negative and depressing season. The main reason that I think some people will argue that it's gotten a little bit better in their minds is because of the things that I just said, and then there's the fact that people aren't mentioning it as like the worst season anymore. They're like, oh yeah, that was so bad, because now they do that for Nicaragua Redemption Island, a few people do that for Caramon. But I actually argue the fact that people aren't talking about it anymore when they used to talk about it like that still makes it just as bad. Just let me look at the notes real fast. Here. Okay, right. Because to compare, Big Brother 9 used to be lobbied as just as bad as Survivor Thailand after it first aired. But once you get to Big Brother 15, you suddenly had a lot more people going, oh yeah, 15 is just absolutely horrible, but these people still added, going, yeah, 15 bad, 15 bad, 15 bad, and 9, like with Thailand, has just been pushed to the side and completely forgotten about. but there's still people bringing up 15. So I'm like, this is keeping 15 fresh in our minds. You're not moving past it, brushing it aside. You keep going bad, 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 bad. But why aren't you pushing it over? And here's something that I don't think a lot of you have noticed. Almost all of those other seasons of Survivor that you consider to be totally bad, Nicaragua, Redemption Island, Caramone, they've brought people back from those seasons. You want to know how many times they brought someone back from Thailand? Yeah. Now, they were in negotiations to try and bring Brian back for All Stars, but supposedly he kept saying, I want X amount of money no matter how much I get. And everyone's like, it doesn't work like that. Then they briefly considered him for HVV, but they're like, nah, he's too unlikable. I don't know about you, but I think that that's worse. I don't think that this is a case of, well, you can say, oh yeah, we considered it totally bad, but what were we talking about? That's what Marquesas has been, even though I'm still not the biggest fan of it. To give you another example, tons of people say that Terminator 3, after they first saw it, was like, oh yeah, that was horrible. It absolutely sucks compared to the other two. But then you had Genesis and Dark Fate come out, and tons of people, including me, ended up rewatching Terminator 3 for the first time in years to prepare ourselves for watching those movies, and then we're like, what? What were we complaining about? Sure, it's worse than the first two, but it's fine. Like the very last time that I watched Terminator 3, I was laughing my face off. Not because the movie was stupid, but because Arnold's one-liners were just amazing. Huh? I really do not think that this season has gone through a huge, resurgence. It's kind of like with the Star Wars prequels. That's another example of a resurgence in a popularity, though, given how they, Disney, I mean, said that all the novels and comic books that tie into the prequels are no longer canon, it's honestly a lot better for you to just say that the prequels aren't canon, period, and just deal with having those episode numbers missing from the overall timeline, if you ask me. Because in my mind, the prequels work a lot better if you have those things there to support it. But getting back to Survivor, there's definitely a club that says that this season has gotten better. I'm not one of them. I'm going to tell you right now, in my mind, this is still the worst season for the reasons that I've spent the last few minutes describing. Yep, I figured I'd only be able to get through 5 seasons. See you in the next part.